Guys, I I have something big to confess. This isn't gonna be hard for me, but I feel like it's worth saying. I'm kind of a big Batman fan. Like, you can see all my Batman match. I don't even know if this is all of it. Like, it's probably like a Lego piece I've missed. Maybe some action figures that I've not really seen. Like, this is a lot, right? I got like all a bunch of this like movies, got the animated show, season one, comic, like this. I think I have an obsession. So, when it was announced that they were gonna make a new Batman movie, obviously I was excited. So, yeah, many days have passed since that day, and now that new Batman movie called The Batman, which I've already been bought a piece of merch for, it's now out, and I have some thoughts and opinions, but just I didn't really want to do a review, so sorry for background noise. I've decided to just rank all of the Batman movies. Now, when I mean all, I do mean theatrically released, so none of like the animated stuff, like the I don't know, Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja, Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Death of the Family, Batman: The Long Halloween, Parts 1 and 2. Those stuff I'm not counting. I do think The Killing Joke was released in cinemas for like one day, but that's just a day, so I'm not really counting that in the ranking. So we're just doing the original 1966 movie, the two Tim Burton movies, the two Joel Schumacher movies, Mask of the Phantasm, because that was, had a cinema release that was more than one day, at least from what I've heard. The Nolan trilogy, and then the new one. I'm not doing Batman v Superman because I feel like that's more of a team up movie. Same with like Justice League, both versions. I'm also not doing Joker because that's a Joker movie, not a Batman movie. Yeah. Now that I've done this, there's a lot of dust, by the way. A lot of the stuff is like in my drawers or like closets, so a lot of this is very dusty. I'm probably gonna have to clean this after I shoot this video. But yeah, let's just get into the video. Coming in at number 11 is Batman and Robin. Now, there's nothing that I can say about this film that has been already said. Now, granted, this film is one of those so bad it's good type of movies. Like, I do genuinely enjoy watching this film because it's just so bad that I have such a great time. And there's just so many weird decisions that I can enjoy watch this movie. But in terms of actually, filmmaking and like script and performance wise, this film is terrible. This film is so bad. And the thing is, it doesn't have the worst ideas. I actually kind of like some of the ideas here of Bruce being too condescending. I can't say that word. Condescending on Robin and trying to control everything, but then has to realize they can't control everything. And Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite Batman villains. I think he has such a good story on how he's not really a bad guy, and I think the casting is pretty good. I mean, George Clooney could make for a good Bruce Wayne and maybe a good Batman. Arnold Schwarzenegger could be a great Mr. Freeze, and Uma Thurman is a great pick for a Poison Ivy. But there's just, the script is terrible for these characters. You're supposed to sympathize for Mr. Freeze. That's kind of the whole point of his character. And yet he's always just cracking these stupid puns. Like, and they're not even funny. They're just terrible, but you kind of have to laugh because it's so bad they're good, like this movie. And that's also with Poison Ivy and Uma Thurman. She's hamming it up, but it's a terrible script, and it's like, why are you hamming it up so much in this weird ass movie? And yeah, yeah, there's nothing I can really say about this film that hasn't been already said, as mentioned before. It's just some weird fever dream that Joel Schumacher decided to make, and honestly, I'm kind of glad that the film's ended here, because if we continue with this continuity, I just fear what could have happened next. But yeah, moving on to number 10. Coming in at number 10 is Batman Forever. Yep, this is the other Joel Schumacher Batman movie, and it is better than Batman and Robin, I guess. I don't know. There's nothing really to say about this film. It's kind of boring on my when I rewatch this film. I don't really find it that entertaining. It isn't like Batman and Robin where it's so bad it's good. It's just sort of bland and forgettable. Like I barely remember this film. Uh, I don't know why they recast Two Face. Like Billy D. Williams would have made a fantastic Two Face, but I don't know. It's just, and Tommy Lee Jones, he's a great actor, but what is he doing as Two Face? Like honestly, he's weirdly worse than Jim Carrey as the Riddler. And Jim Carrey as the Riddler, I actually don't mind. I think he's a fine Riddler. He's not my favorite version of the Riddler, but I think that's more of the writing for the character. And um, yeah, and there was rumors that Robin Williams was going to play the Riddler. That would have been fantastic casting, but we got this instead. And I actually like him as Edward Nygma, but that's really just a small portion of the film. The whole Robin stuff is the storyline is fine, but I don't remember the name of the actor for Robin. I think it's Chris O'Donnell, unless I'm mistaking him for someone else. But he is not a good Robin. I'm sorry, but he's just not a good Robin. And he looks like he's in his mid-20s at least, when he's supposed to be a teenager. It just makes no sense. And the whole Chase Meridian stuff, it's just bad. That's no other way to put it. It's just bad. And honestly, after rewatching this video I found called a fan description called "What if Tim Burton directed this," which is a fantastic video and I would highly recommend. And honestly, this film just got worse after that video, and yeah, there's nothing much I can really say about this film. It's just bland and pretty bad, and oh, I nearly forgot about to talk about Val Kilmer as Batman. And honestly, he looks weird when he's in the cowl. His mouth is like always open. I don't know, his jawline just doesn't look like a Batman jawline, but he does make a pretty good Bruce Wayne, so I guess there's that as well. But I can't really roast on this film too much since a lot of it was changed, and honestly, if there, I don't think there's a Schumacher cut, but if there is, I would love to see it, because apparently a lot of the best stuff in this movie was cut, like a lot of the Bruce sort of stuff about finding himself and all that. That was all cut, which is a shame. I hate it when studios cut films down, but yeah, nothing much to say about this film. Moving on to number 9. Coming in at number 9 is Batman 66, or 1966, whatever. Yeah, this film is like camp at its best. Like, even though it's at number 9 and I, have some problems with it, I really can't roast this movie or like make fun of it, because it's just so goofily entertaining that I just can't bring myself to hate it. And really, the only reason it's in number 9 is just because I think the other Batman movies are better. Like, if this was the contest for like the goofiest, this would win easily. And that's not like I'm not like that's not a complaint of the movie. That's the word I'm searching for. It's not a complaint of the movie. In fact, that's a compliment, because this version of Batman, as much as I like the dark and serious, and that's my favorite version of Batman, I do like this occasional, just goofy, campy Batman, and it's so much better than the Joel Schumacher movies, because those also try to be serious, while this is just straight up camp, and that's really it. And the villain performances are great. Adam West is just great at this stone faced but delightfully goofy Batman. I don't know the actor of Robin, but he's doing a great job. And yeah, this film is just so goofily fun that I can't roast anything about it. I know I said that a lot, but still. If I had a genuine complaint, this film kind of drags weirdly. Like, it's kind of got a lot of boring moments, which is it's very odd for this type of movie. But yeah, that's only my real complaint, because I just can't bring myself to say anything negative about this movie. It's just such a fun watch. And yeah, moving on to number 8. Coming in at number 8 is Batman Begins. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for putting this pretty low on the list, but honestly, I don't think this film is for me. Like, I just, I'm really bored while watching this movie. It doesn't have a lot of entertaining moments, and it doesn't have a lot of memorable moments outside of, like, a few things, but other than that, I don't really remember this movie. Like, I remember, like, the weird, like, flashbacks, and it goes to the present day, and it's kind of weirdly structured, and I don't know, and I can't really get behind a lot of the things, but I like, and I think Batman kind of works best when he's just established to be in the world, like we don't see his origin, and maybe we see his parents getting killed, but that's really it. But I can understand that they want to do something different, and as a Batman origin story, I think this one is pretty good, I guess. I like the Ra's al Ghul stuff. I think that's fun. Ironically, the least favorite parts for me are the actual Batman stuff, like him getting the costumes, not the costumes, the suit, and like making all the weapons. That stuff is fun, and seeing him in the forget what it's called, but the thing of shadows. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's the Ra's al Ghul stuff. That stuff is cool, like seeing him train and all that. But when he's Batman, he's like intimidating. He's trying to be intimidating. It's pretty. It's I don't know. It's just not intriguing for me. And also, total waste of Scarecrow. Like, you have this character that is just made for something like the big screen. He gives you your biggest fear. He visualizes it, and you could do so many things with the character. So what do you do with this character on film? You put a mask on him, and then you shake the camera violently, and that's kind of it. We do get some visuals, but none of them really stick out as fun or interesting. And yeah, it's just I don't know. I can't really get behind this Batman movie. I can see why other people like it, but I don't know. It's just not for me, I guess. But yeah, moving on to number 7. Coming in at number 7 is The Dark Knight Rises. Now, I know this film is pretty heavily divided. Some people love it, some people don't love it. But I find myself in the middle of it. I think this film is majority really, really good, and then it kind of then there's that like one area where it kind of falls flat, and it's honestly I think it's the script. Like, the story is pretty good. I think it's kind of weird that we go back to the Ra's al Ghul League of Shadows thing when we just had a whole movie that, kind of ignored that. And honestly, it kind of just feels like this is just a duology, and you could kind of skip The Dark Knight. Um, But yeah, I think the action is pretty good. Bane is a fairly good villain, I think. I know a lot of people like to make fun of like his voice and all that. And while I do think it's funny, I also don't mind it, and I think he does some pretty cool stuff, and majority of my favorite parts are probably his scenes and his line delivery, and also just his lines in general. And all in all, I think I just remember this movie more than Batman Begins, and that's why I rank it higher. And yeah, Anne Hathaway, that's in it. Anne Hathaway is a fairly good Catwoman, I'd say. I don't know. Her character design is pretty bad. It's just sort of like a black costume and then, goggles that kind of become cat ears, kind of, but not really. But yeah, I don't really like her design, but she's a good. She plays it well, I guess. I don't know. They kind of changed it a bit up, which I'm fine with. And yeah, I think this film is. Yeah, it exists. I guess that's the only way I could describe. But I'm satisfied with this ending to the Dark Knight trilogy, and yeah, I think it's a pretty fun watch, even though it is nearly 3 hours. But yeah, moving on to number 6. Coming in at number 6 is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. Now, for those who don't know, since I actually don't think not many people know about this film, this was released to cinemas, and it is a movie that is a continuation, I'm fairly certain, of the Batman the animated series, which I still somehow haven't seen. It's been on my watch list forever, and I have to watch it, but yeah, so this is kind of my first exposure to the show, and it is great. I think if we're just talking Batman movies in general, this would definitely be higher on the list of like films that understand Batman. This would definitely be probably number two, in fact, probably. Like, I could only think of one other film that understands Batman at least the same way I do. And I think the story of like Batman being framed for these like murders, and like the Phantasm is such a cool Batman villain, like someone who kind of looks like Batman, and people start to think maybe Batman's gone, he's killing people now. And the way Joker is then incorporated into it, and Mark Hamill's just a fantastic Joker, and Kevin Conroy is a fantastic Bruce Wayne and Batman, and you also got those elements of Bruce Wayne kind of not really wanting to do this Batman stuff anymore, and kind of wanting to have a personal life, but then feeling sort of bad about it because he feels like it's dishonoring the just him being happy is kind of dishonoring his parents' death. All of that is great, and it's very Batman, and that's really how I can describe the film. It's very Batman, and it's what I like about the character. Um, but yeah, the only real reason it's not higher on the list is because I just like these other five films more. And yeah, this film is great, and if you haven't watched it, go watch it. I think it is on Netflix, at least in Australia. I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, would highly recommend this film. Go check it out. Moving on to number 5. Coming in at number 5, from one animated Batman movie to the next, the Lego Batman movie. This film is hilarious, just to begin with. Like this, the comedy of this film rivals the first Lego movie, and honestly, that's another thing about this movie. I like it just as much as I like the first Lego movie, which is a high compliment because Lego movies are just one of my favorite animated movies of all time, and henceforth, this is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. And maybe that's because I'm such a big Batman fan, as seen before, but um, yeah, I think this film is just great, and it's not just like great because it's funny, but it has some very heartfelt things about Batman. Like, it is very ironic that this is one of the most human takes on Batman, given that's Lego, but you really get into his psyche and how he's just a loner and how he's scared to be family, and honestly, it just understands Batman, which for what would initially seem like just like a cash grab for cashing in on like Lego Batman is a very cool and fun thing that this film actually understands the character, and it's equally a surprise as the Lego Movie, I would say. Um, and I just think this film is very enjoyable. It's a very breezy watch. Like, this film goes by so fast. I don't know what the runtime is, but it feels like it's just like a 90-minute movie at least. Um, but yeah, and Will Arnett makes a surprisingly good Batman. Like, his voice, even though it's kind of like mimicking and making fun of the Batman voice, it is funny to see him do like the deep gravity voice. He definitely like broke his voice in the recording booth. And Michael Cera, even though he looks like he couldn't be Robin because he's way too old, he definitely voices the character great, and the whole cast is just fantastic. And yeah, I don't really have that many complaints. I guess they kind of make a romantic subplot again with Barbara Gordon and Batman, which I'm not too fond of. To me, the only Batman love interest I really get behind is him and Selena Kyle, like a Catwoman, but it's fine, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, moving on to number 4. Coming in at number 4 is Batman 89, the first Tim Burton Batman. I think first, oh wait, not first theatrically because Batman 66, but really, this film kind of reinvented what comic book movies could be. Because before this, all we really had was that 66 Batman movie and the Christopher Reeve Superman movie. And I love the Christopher Reeve Superman movie, but out of the two, this one is just my favorite. And that could be Batman, just my bias against him. But honestly, this is just one of the best superhero movies. Like, this film is just so clever in its visual storytelling, and that's another thing. Like, a lot of these Batman movies, they get so much out of like dialogue and things. This film, and also Batman, the next Batman movie we'll be talking about, does so much with its visuals, and like it's just such good visual storytelling, and it looks great for a film that's over 30 years old. I'm fairly certain it looks phenomenal, and Michael Keaton is just Batman. Like, he is my favorite Batman, except maybe another person that we'll get into. And he's a good Bruce Wayne as well. Like, he's the one Bruce Wayne, out of all the Bruce Waynes, he's the one who I would be like, what I would least suspect as Batman. And Jack Nicholson as the Joker is just great casting. He's hamming it up in this role, and you can tell he's having so much fun. And it's kind of contagious because he's just having so much fun that we get so much fun. But not to say he isn't scary, because he's terrifying as the Joker as well. Like, the Joker is a very scary character in this film, and yeah, it's just a great watch. And yeah, just go watch it if you somehow haven't, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, moving on to number 3. Coming in at number 3 is Batman Returns. Now, you may be thinking that this may be too high on the list. Like, there's been a lot of backlash against this movie, but I can't take that. I love this movie. It is Tim Burton unhinged. Like, Tim Burton was basically given a blank check and was told to do a Batman movie, and oh boy, did he ever. Like, this is just pure camp, like, while being gothic. Like, it's the best mix between gothic and, like, camp. And I love it for that reason. Like, I have so much fun while watching this movie, and there's just so many iconic lines that I remember, and so much, like, iconic, but also just strange and weird things. Now, if we're just talking subjective, this is very, like, not the best movie. Like, there's a lot of problems, mainly around the Penguin. Like, he's played phenomenally by Danny DeVito, and he has a good story, but it kind of it's kind of mixed because he tries to kill children and like destroy Gotham City, but at the same time we have to feel sympathetic for him. I don't know. It's weird. But that's most where my problems come from. Selena Kyle and aka Catwoman's movie is phenomenal. And I just love the way Michelle Pfeiffer plays it. And it is probably my favorite Catwoman, other than maybe the next Catwoman, which we'll get to. Don't worry. But yeah, out of Batman and Batman Returns, this is definitely the one I have the most fun watching. And that whole finale with Batman against penguins, it's just so funny, and I can't get my mind behind it. Also, we have Christopher Walken in this movie as Max Schreck, like this shady businessman. How can you not love this movie? Like, I'm being serious. This film is just so much fun just watching it. And it's a Christmas movie. It's Batman in Christmas. I mean, come on. Like, this is the movie I watch around every Christmas. Like, I'm not joking. This is my go-to Christmas movie. Um, but, yeah, this film is just balls to the walls, insane, and I love it for that reason. Moving on to number 2. Coming in at number 2, my second favorite Batman movie is The Batman. Matt Reeves' vision for the character, which recently came out and has been fairly mixed, I would say. Quite a lot of people are saying it's like the best Batman movie. Some people are saying that it's bad. But me personally, I loved this movie. Like, I could not, despite the fact it's basically 3 hours, I could not keep my eyes off the screen. I've seen it twice since its initial release. In fact, I watched this the day it came out. Actually, technically the day before, because my local cinema had an advanced screening, so I watched it a day before. And boy, could I not be happier that I did this. This movie is so good. This is not just one of my favorite. This is just one of my favorite new movies, just in general. Like, I know it's only March and we're only 3 months in, but this might be my favorite movie of the year already. The only film I could see maybe topping it is like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and even then, it has a very high bar to do, because boy, this film is fantastic. Like, Robert Pattinson might be my favorite Batman and Bruce Wayne, because a lot of people don't like his Bruce Wayne because he's not the rich billionaire playboy. But for me, Bruce Wayne is not that playboy. He's just some kid who lost his parents, has never been able to get over it, and he plays that role so good. And Ron Pattinson is so good in the role. And I've seen some people say that his Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same. I could not see that. His Bruce Wayne is very different from his Batman, because his Batman is all like condescending and he's just like in charge of the situation, and yeah, just all the casting and all the acting is phenomenal. Like, we have Colin Farrell, not Colin Farrell, Firth, I don't know how to say his last name, but he plays the Penguin under all that makeup. Like, my dad, I watched this with my dad, he did not know it was Colin Farrell, whatever his name is. He was like, what? He was in this movie? He did not know it was Penguin, and the makeup is phenomenal. Zoe Kravitz is amazing as Catwoman. Like, I know I said Michelle Pfeiffer, but honestly, it might be Chloe Zhao. It's like a
Batman
tie
movie, some
between
people
the two,
are saying
because
that
they're both
it's
very
bad,
different
but
characters.
me personally, I
think
loved
maybe like
this
movie.
movie.
Like, I could not,
better.
despite the fact it's basically
And this
3
film
hours,
just
I
gets
could not
Batman.
keep
Like,
my
I was talking
eyes
about
off
Muscular
the screen.
Phantasm,
I've
how it
seen
might
it
be
twice
second in understanding
since
Batman.
its initial release.
For
In fact,
me,
I watched this
film
the day
gets
it came
Batman,
out.
at least
Actually,
the
technically
way
the
I
day
see
before,
Batman.
because
as well.
My
And
local cinema
I just
had an advanced
absolutely
screening, so I watched
love
it
this
a
movie,
day
if you
before.
could not tell.
And boy,
Like,
boy, could I
could
not be happier
more
that I
satisfied
did this.
as a
This
Batman
movie is
film, and
so
I'm
good.
so
This is not
excited to
just
see where
one of my favorite.
this is just
one of my
trilogy
favorite new
films go.
like movies. Just
I can't
in general,
believe, I can't believe I
I
haven't
know
talked
it's
about the
only
Riddler
March
yet.
and we're
The
only 3
Riddler
months
is
in,
so
but
good.
this
He's
might
one
be
of
my
my
favorite
new
movie of the
comic book
year
villain.
already.
Paul
The only
Dano
film I could see
does an
maybe
amazing
top-
job topping
and
it. I've seen some people
is
complain
like,
that it's kind of too
Spider-Man
fast, but I
across
kind
the
of like that.
Spider-Verse.
You know,
And even
he's
then,
like this.
it has a
amazing
very
figure,
high bar
but then
to
he's
do
also this
because
influencer.
this
but
film
I
is
kind of like that about the
fantastic.
character.
Like,
you know?
Robert Pattinson
I like how he kind of
might be my favorite Batman
because
and
that's
Bruce Wayne, because
really
a lot of
how
people don't
the
like his
world
Bruce
would
Wayne because
react.
he's
Like,
not
a lot of
the
people
rich
would be against it, but then
billionaire
some people would be
playboy.
like, no,
But
he's
for
feeling
me, Batman
corrupt
is
people.
never
Bruce Wayne
and the
is not
Gotham
that.
in the city is so good. Like
Playboy.
I haven't really
He's
talked about Gotham
just
a lot,
some
but
kid who lost his parents. Has never been
Nolan
able to get
films,
over it. It just feels like any
and
other city. Like, it
he
doesn't feel
plays
like
that
its
role
own,
so good, and Ron Pattinson
like,
is so good in the
character in
role.
itself.
And I've
I
seen
love
some people
it in the
say
Batman
that
movies,
his Batman and Bruce
the
Wayne
Tim
are
Burton Batman
the
movies,
same.
and then in Joel
I
Schumacher,
could
it's
not
kind
see
of
that.
in.
His Bruce
But
Wayne is
in this movie,
very
holy
different
hell,
from his
it
Batman,
is
because his
phenomenal.
Batman
Like,
is
I
all,
get
like,
the impression,
condescending,
the
and
impression
he's just
of
like in charge of the
what
situation.
Gotham
And
looks like. Like, I
yeah, just
didn't
all
look at
the
it to me like,
casting
oh,
and
no,
all the acting
I
is phenomenal. Like,
should
we
not
have
go there. Not even as, like,
Colin
not even
Farrell,
for a second. I should
not Colin
consider
Farrell.
going there because that place is terrible.
First,
All, like,
I don't know
the
how to
crime
say
and
his last name,
corruption
but
was just perfect.
he plays the
And
Penguin
there's just
under all
nothing
that
I'll
makeup.
touch in
Like
this
my
movie.
dad,
And the
I watched
action,
this
oh
with
my
my
God,
dad.
the action
He did not
is
know
so good.
it
And
was
honestly, I
Colin.
could probably make a full video on this film because it's just that good, and I loved it so much. But you know, I have to do this ranking, so moving on to number one. My favorite Batman movie is Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Now, there has been a lot of circumcision, whatever the word is, about how this is the best movie, but the Batman is the best Batman movie. I do agree with that, but holy hell do I love The Dark Knight. Like, this film is just downright iconic. Like, there's so many things, like, let's just, dance around the bullet, whatever the saying is. Let's talk about Heath Ledger's Joker. Maybe my favorite, like, villain in any film of all time. Like, he might be one of my favorite performances, and it's so good. It's just phenomenal. He's so funny, but he's terrifying, and, like, all the way he's just, like, you're not ever sure about what he'll do next, or what he is doing at the moment. It's just so good, and I love it so much. I love his interpretation. But it doesn't foreshadow, it doesn't, like, shadow over the movie. Like, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, that's the only good thing about this movie. That's why people love this movie so much. I love this movie for so many other reasons. Like, Harvey Dent and Two-Face is done so well. And the fact that it isn't even set up in the first movie, and you have a whole arc in this movie, and he's not even the main villain, but it's still such a satisfying arc, and you do a whole story in this one movie, and yet it doesn't feel shoehorned in, and it actually feels like it's done well. That's crazy to me. Like, how did you do that? And this film is just so well written, and Christian Bale is just great. I can't believe I haven't talked about him. But he does a great job in here, even though his voice is kind of weird, but I can look past it because this movie is a masterpiece, and I can't believe I haven't talked about it on this channel yet. Like, this is one of my favorite films of all time. I can't believe I haven't talked about it. But yeah, I just absolutely adore this movie. There's so many iconic lines, like, want to know how I got the scars, why are you so serious? You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. I just absolutely love this film, and I'm not saying anything new. You've heard this 100 times, but The Dark Knight is genuinely one of my favorite movies. This is probably on my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I just absolutely love it, and for like a 2.5 hour movie, it feels like so, it goes by so quickly. It's so easy to just watch, like, and like all the writing is just so good, and I could talk about this film all day, but I feel like this video is long enough as it is. So I'll just leave it at Batman. The Dark Knight is a 10 out of 10 movie, and that is that.
But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. This is probably a lot of money now that I'm looking at it, just used on Batman stuff. But you know what? I think it's money well spent for the majority of this. Some things I probably don't need. Looking at that Jared Leto Joker Funko Pop. But yeah, if you somehow not watched any Batman media, please do. He's like my favorite superhero, if you can't tell. Please don't get too toxic in the comments. Remember, this is just my opinion. It's not right, it's not wrong. That's the fun thing about having personal opinions. None of them are right and none of them are wrong because it's all subjective. So if you love Batman and Robin and hate The Dark Knight, cool. That's your opinion. But yeah, guys, this is gonna do for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.